I'm going to take this opportunity now in the takeaways to spin this forward a little bit to what profiles as an incredible Saturday in college football. And, I don't know if we're going to get the same level of insanity that we got this past weekend where the slate was terrible and we saw a ton of upsets and a ton of really exciting games. But on paper, this looks like it's going to be just maybe one of the best Saturdays of the entire season. And I want to start with Red River, Texas, and Oklahoma. Now in the SEC, which feels really weird that Red River's now an SEC game. Texas, a 14.5-point favorite against the Sooners. Total in the game sitting at about 49.5. I think a lot of people will look at this game and look at what Oklahoma's done this season. And I think people will remember that a lot of people had Oklahoma in the game against Tennessee. Oklahoma lost that game by 10, looked impotent on offense in that game. And people will remember all the great things that Texas has done this season and how good Texas has looked and the two quarterbacks and Sark, the number one team in the country. Texas has been unbelievable this season. People might want to lay Texas in this game. Just want to offer you this public service announcement. Next week in college football, not this week, but next week, Texas hosts Georgia. So this Saturday, not only in Red River do we get a rivalry spot with Oklahoma catching more than 2 touchdowns against Texas, but it is also, is it possible that this is like the look-ahead spot to end all look-ahead spots for Texas? First year in the SEC, next week, Georgia, in a game that they are expected not just to win, but dominate Oklahoma. I mean, I don't know if the bet's going to win or not. This is the easiest bet of all time, is to click on Oklahoma to cover the spread against Texas this weekend in Red River. I'll give you one other takeaway from this weekend. It's a question. Is Tennessee actually bad? Are the Volunteers bad at football? They lose to Arkansas 19-14. You might say, just one game, whatever. I go back to what they've done thus far this season. They beat NC State in week 2 in a game that looked really impressive. Also, NC State just lost at home to Wake Forest. Just saying. They beat Oklahoma by 10. Oklahoma then had to make a quarterback change and then beat Auburn on the road. Just saying that maybe Tennessee, the past results, not as great as we thought in the moment. This weekend, Tennessee takes on Florida. 15.5-point favorites the Vols are in that game. Florida coming off an outright win on Saturday night against UCF. Chomp, chomp. Give me the Florida Gators this Saturday to cover against Tennessee. Femi, your college football takeaways from the weekend. And this was, I think like Dave Meltzer would call this a spot fest, what we had this weekend. And this was 7 stars in the Tokyo Dome, my man, because all the spots were hitting this weekend.
Dude, Feliz Navidad, an absolute banger. And like we were laughing about this when we were talking on the phone earlier this morning. And obviously we're doing a little bit of a shtick, a little bit of a bit here, but we want the bets to win. We're not placing bets to lose them. And for these spots to all come through, it's just unbelievable how much this stuff, it feels like, at least to me, a little bit of a hocus pocus, that these spots come through. But these are also college kids, and sometimes these situational spots actually do matter quite a bit. So that was honestly one of my bigger takeaways watching the games, and just with each slate, I'm like, wow, another one. Like DJ Khaled, another one. It just kept going and going and going. UCLA can barely move the football. They cover against Penn State because Penn State doesn't care about UCLA. They care about USC. It was just really, really an incredible Saturday that we had there. And one of my key takeaways from that Saturday, Miami, the Hurricanes, complete fraud. They are a complete fraud. They are a Mario Cristobal team to a T. Eventually, that ass whooping, it's on deck. Because they're living just on the edge. The Va-Tech Hail Mary that they called incomplete, they barely survived that one. Last Saturday against Cal, a game that they should have lost if Cal just had a first down or 2 in the second half, then maybe Cal actually wins the game instead of blowing a 25-point lead in the second half. Miami's not impressive. I know they had the drive at the end of the game and Cam Ward did his thing. Cam Ward also begging to throw across his body and throw to the other team. It's just a weird team that, yes, they've won to this point. The schedule is soft, so maybe this will continue. But this team is not very good. They're a hard fade, and I think the ass whooping is coming rather soon for the Hurricanes. The number 2 takeaway from me.
I want to call it that, by the way. That TAW, that ass whooping, I think needs to be a thing on the show.
That ass whooping, it's coming.
It's
coming for the Miami Hurricanes.
It's coming for Miami.
The U is going down. We're not doing the U anymore. We're not doing that.
Can you do that hand motion on the air on camera? I'm not sure. I don't know if that violates. I'm not sure. We'll move on.
Check it out in podcast form. For like Lincoln Riley, his teams will always just be soft. Like his teams are soft, and I don't know if anybody saw the post game presser when somebody was asking the player, like, hey, like, did you think that that Minnesota scored on the 4th and goal decision to go ahead and push or whatever? With like there was just like I think it was like a minute left or whatever. And he was like, well, why would you ask him that question? Like this is as a player, like why would you ask a player that? It's like just like it's a professional question. Let him answer the question. Like it's fine.
Also, he's getting paid.
Also, he's getting paid. He's an NIL athlete, I'm sure. Like if he's up there, he's good enough to be up there at the podium. He's probably getting paid. Like Lincoln Riley, completely soft, and his teams will always be soft. And then finally, the last takeaway kind of goes back to what we saw with the Miami game. The Heisman Trophy market is going to be ridiculously fun for the second half of the season. Like we're only at week 7, and it's already like insane what the market looks like. We have Ashton Genty, a Mountain West running back, is the favorite to win the Heisman, who is ahead of a wide receiver corner who plays for a team at Colorado that's probably fortunate to win 8 or 9 games this year. And then behind them is Cam Ward, the quarterback of that fraudulent team down in Miami. Like, I don't really think either 3 of those guys are going to win the Heisman Trophy. So I think tomorrow's discussion about the Heisman will be really, really fun. But I think we're in store for an electric Heisman Trophy discussion tomorrow and all throughout the rest of college football this season.
I will just continue to reiterate, if you play, because we got a lot of sickos in our audience, you play Dynasty Fantasy Football, keep gearing up, do what you have to do, get that number 1 overall pick in rookie drafts next year. I talked to some people in the NFL this past weekend, like, is Ashton Genty going to be a first-round pick in the NFL draft? Unanimous answer, yes. Like, he's going in the first round, and, like, I don't even think, like, usually we complain about this. Oh, how could you draft a running back in the first round? I think this is one that, like, actually we should not complain about. I actually think he's a worthy first-round pick, and I think he's going to be a first-round pick in actual fantasy football leagues next year. I mean, the moves are insane. He didn't even play in the second half, which is really nice from Boise State. That was really nice of them to do. They could have 500 yards against Utah State in that game. Our friend Tyler Morales is with us. Hello, Tyler.
Hello, guys.
Tyler, hit us with some college football takes that you had from this weekend, other than you winning in our Oppo battle with Ole Miss in South Carolina.
Oh, yeah, that was, come on, Lane Kiffin, you knew he was running it up on that team. I got a couple of takeaways here. One of them, I'm not really worried about Alabama or the Jalen Milroe Heisman. Like, I know they lost to Vandy. At the end of the year, I don't think this loss is gonna matter with the new playoff format, so I'm not really overacting at all. And like for the Milroe Heisman part, like this was part of the handicap before the year. Like if they had an ugly loss, I think they can survive it. Like the schedule they have upcoming, they play South Carolina this week, and then Tennessee on the road. If he wins that, he might be the favorite again. Then Missouri after that, and then LSU after that. So like Milroe has a stretch here where he can just reclaim and grasp as the favorite of this Heisman Trophy. So I'm not worried about the Milroe Heisman bets. If anything, I would buy more. If this is the perfect time to jump back in if you don't have any Jalen Milroe. It's my second takeaway. Ohio State, like I think this weekend's going to tell us a ton. Like I think they might be the best team, and they've played nobody. They destroyed Iowa. They play Oregon this weekend, who has some major flaws. Their defense might be terrible. And if Ohio State beats Oregon like I think they might become a bigger favorite to win it all, which is insane because they're already the betting favorite. In my opinion, there's still a bunch of unknown with this team. And I think if they win, if they blow out Oregon, I think they're going to be even a bigger favorite. So Ohio State stood out to me a ton. I think I'm going to bet them this weekend. I also we'll talk about this week. I might have a Heisman bet on that team that's not Jeremiah Smith. So we'll talk about that coming up. And just like overall college football takeaway, I think like these teams are a lot closer than we thought. Like in my opinion, but this isn't earth shattering. A lot of people are sharing this. I do think a lot of these teams are closer than we thought. The transfer portal obviously has spread out the talent a ton. And I think that's why we're seeing a bunch of upsets. Like Diego Pavia from Vanderbilt, like he was a great quarterback in New Mexico State. This isn't just some random guy that just showed up. He was the MVP in their 2 bowl games. Taylor Green for Arkansas, he was a quarterback at Boise State. Andrew Armstrong, the Arkansas receiver, like he's another transfer. I think a lot of these teams, the talent's been spread out, which is making it tough for these teams to cover some of these numbers. Like I had Georgia minus 22. They dominated that game, didn't cover the game. So I think a lot of these teams are closer than we thought. So those are the kind of the 3 takeaways I had from this weekend.
That was a gambler on gambler crime because Tyler doesn't give Jake any time to give his takeaways. Maybe we'll get them. Jake does look handsome, though, in the box there. So Jake will join us a little later in the show. The Ohio State-Oregon line this weekend is a little interesting, right? Ohio State, a 3.5-point road favorite in that game. Mm-hmm. Like, if you want to do, like, the Feliz Navidad routine, yeah, the sports books, they're on their hands and knees. They are begging you to take the points with Oregon. You know what? Is it a double cross? No, we just lay Ohio State, right? And maybe it'll go down to 3. I'm with Tyler here. I think it's Ohio State or nothing in this game coming up this weekend. Ohio State on the road at Oregon.